Alright guys, I'm back in my little corner here. I'm going to get straight to the action, replacing those cam bearings. I got my Summit Racing cam bearing tool here. I got two different sets of cam bearings, just in case one was the wrong size, but they both appear to be the right size. So, first order of business is I got to knock out these old cam bearings and see how this tool works, and we'll go from there. Ah, it's stuck. What in the actual fuck is going on? Oh my God. I almost just took out the cam sensor. Okay. Let's try this again. Once I figured out how to use the tool, it actually went pretty smoothly. These are the old bearings that came out, and you can really see why I wanted to replace them. The top part of it, where none of the load is really experienced, they're a little gritty, and then the bottom part where most of the load is, you can see that goldish bronze color that, you know, they're not fully worn out, but they're really starting to get through that bearing material, which is, at this point, it's just good enough reason to replace them, especially putting in a new cam. So you can see here I put a Sharpie mark on the hole in the cam bearing. There is an oil galley, an oil port in the cam journal that you have to line that up with. And there's two holes, but there's only one journal. And the holes in the bearing are sort of offset. They're closer to each other in one direction than they are the other. And I just sort of mimicked what was in there. And here I'm just lining up that mark. That Sharpie mark actually really helped. Oh, so far so good. See that mark right there? See that mark right there? That's lined up with my oil port. It's a slot about this big. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Looking good. On to number 2. So, focus. This is what we're working with here. Focus. Focus. There you go. So see, this is the Sharpie mark that I made. This is the oil port from right here up to right here. This is where you want to be, somewhere in this vicinity. So we're lined up good on that one. You can see this one's in the same row. That's it. Just make sure you get it right there. And this one obviously isn't pressed in all the way, so let's finish up that right now. Well, once I got the first couple knocked out, I really got into a rhythm and it went pretty smooth. The most important part is lining up those oil holes, and if you're doing bearing number 1, put the tool in from number 5. And if you're doing number 5, put the tool in from number 1. You want the longest amount of distance between the tool and the bearing to make sure that it's straight. Just like that, the most daunting part of this project is done. Cam bearings went in super smooth. I'm super happy about it. I got all the oiling holes lined up really nice. Tool worked great. What more can you ask for? And we're putting it back together now. So, why am I clapping? We'll see you guys tomorrow. Ready? All right, guys, it's the next day. And I'm super excited. I'm gonna start over. Fuck. All right, guys, it's the next day. We got the cam bearings sorted out last night. Now it is time to put the pistons back in and put the cam in and really start to reassemble this thing, which is super exciting. So let's start with the pistons and see how it goes. This is just your standard auto parts store ring compressor. It's not the easiest to work with, but it gets the job done. And that's too tight. Back to the drawing board. You always want to make sure you know where the crankshaft is when you're putting pistons back in. It's real easy to hit the crankshaft with that open connecting rod. So as I put each rod in, I torqued them on their initial pass. I think it was 15 or 20 foot-pounds or something like that. Just to make sure that no bearings moved or nothing slid out of place. And then I went back when I was all done and did the final pass on torque. See, what we got right here is the blood part of the blood, sweat, and tears. Sweat and tears to come later. All right, so we got the pistons back in there, torqued everything down, everything feels great. Next up is going to be the camshaft. I'm going to start slapping this thing together as quick as I can, and we should have an entire engine here pretty soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we start this evening's story with a camshaft. Now, this camshaft was born in 2009. And at the time, it was probably the cream of the crop. It was destined to be the hot new cam on the block, to make all its inferior friends jealous of its lope and its popcorn sound. This camshaft was built with 551 thou on the intake lift, an exhaust lift of 573. With a lobe separation angle of 110 degrees, this camshaft is sure to make the neighbors quiver. With 4 degrees advance, ground right into it. However, this camshaft fell on a different fate. It was purchased for a project that was never completed. It was purchased with grand illusions, and it was purchased with big dreams of making power and causing ruckus in a little 5.3 engine. But it sat on a shelf. For years, it sat on a shelf. Then one day, the owner of this camshaft decided he was done. Decided to give it all up. There was no use for this camshaft anymore. No use for the engine that it was supposed to go in. And this camshaft was doomed for the scrapyard. But alas, there was a savior. Came in at the 11th hour and picked this camshaft off the ground and said, I'm gonna put you to work. I'm gonna show the world what you were designed to do. And while this camshaft isn't the best of the best by today's standard, this camshaft was built to perform. This camshaft has one more trick up its sleeve. This old dog isn't dead yet. This camshaft will bring new life to a junkyard 5.3 with 200,000 miles and a blown head gasket. This camshaft will make my neighbors scream. This camshaft will probably make my girlfriend break up with me. But nonetheless, this camshaft will make some noise. And if the gods will hear us and are shining down upon us, maybe, just maybe, this camshaft will make some power. I wrote that myself. I didn't write it. I just thought of it. Anywho, I got a pile of parts behind me. As you can see, we are on assembly time. I know I just finished up the pistons, so now next step is getting that camshaft in and putting this engine back together. So let's do it. Don't mind me, I'm just getting it ready for a coat of paint. Now, I just had these parts laying around. I was given another engine that had a bunch of parts, a bunch of new parts. I could have cleaned the other one up, but I don't have the patience for that, as you can tell by my paint job, so I figured the new one would be nice. You saw me check the bottom edge here with a straight edge, because these holes actually have a bunch of play in them, as well as this tool right here. This actually centers it on the crankshaft. And then I always check to make sure that the cover and the bottom of the block are on the same plane, because you can actually put it on there cockeyed, and that's just a recipe for oil leaks. So this is a nice little Mr. Gasket set. Comes with a front one with a seal, so it's a little smaller than this, and then a front one without a seal, and then a rear one without the seal. It's already looking better. Jumped the gun a little bit on this bad boy. I ain't got my torque wrench. I don't know if these bolts need sealing. Here we are. There she goes. Well, you missed that one.
I hit the wrong button, and trust me when I tell you it went the same as the other side. So heads are now torqued, which is very exciting. I broke the coolant temp sensor, and if you're keen, you realize I put the wrong head on the wrong side. So I gotta swap the sensor. Not a big deal, but I made a mental note and then I did the opposite. So heads are on. You can see I glued the gaskets in there. Just a little bit of extra insurance. The heads didn't look great. The black had a little bit of corrosion, so I glued them in there, so we should be good to go. I got the multi-layer steel gaskets, which are much better for holding power and all that kind of stuff than the fiber type gasket that was in there. And this little corner isn't going to blow out of a multi-layer steel gasket, which it did in a fiber gasket. So yeah, on to the next. Alright, so we knocked out this side. I'm gonna bang out the other side quick because I gotta get home. It's Friday night, and well, let's be honest, this was my Friday night, so I gotta get home and eat some dinner and snooze so I can wake up early tomorrow and do it all over again. But I'm gonna end the episode off here. As you can see, we got heads on there, we got the front cover on there, we got the crank pulley on there, block with a shitty paint job. And this thing's actually starting to come together, and I'm super excited. So in the next episode, we'll get it fully dressed up, have all the intake manifold, new injectors, all that other stuff, and it will be ready to go in the truck. I got some other cool parts that I'll show you in the next one, but this was just a quick and dirty rebuild, and I'm happy that it came together. So subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it very much, and we'll see you guys in the next one.